It always starts the same way. First hard freeze of the year, frost on the inside of the glass, and you climb in already shivering. You crank the heat to full and wait for that wall of warm air every car is supposed to give you. What you get instead is strange. Warm air drifting out of the vents on one side and cool, almost cold air coming out the other. Maybe your feet are toasty while the passenger seat stays chilly. Maybe the top of the windshield clears while the bottom stays fogged over. The temperature gauge sits right where it should. The heater's trying something in the middle, just isn't letting the heat get where it needs to go. Most folks live with it for a week or two, running the fan flat out and wiping the inside of the glass with a sleeve. Then they take it somewhere, and that's where a small problem turns into an expensive one. A shop hooks it up, pokes around the dash, and comes back with a word that makes your stomach drop. Heater core. They tell you it's buried behind the whole dashboard, that the dash has to come apart to reach it, and that the labor alone eats most of a day. I've watched drivers get handed quotes of $800, $1,200, sometimes over $2,000 for that job. One fellow showed me a written estimate for $450 just to diagnose and flush it, with a much bigger number waiting behind it if that didn't work. Almost none of those drivers were told the one thing that would have saved them the money. That cold on one side, warm on the other heater is 9 times out of 10 not a broken part. It's a clogged one. And clearing that clog is a job you can do yourself in your own driveway in about an hour with a garden hose and a part that costs around $20. I've done this fix more times than I can count, and I've watched grown men laugh out loud when hot air finally pours out of every vent again. There's no dash removal, no new core, and no shop bill with 4 digits on it. Just a stubborn plug of old gunk flushed out of a little radiator most people don't even know is sitting in behind their glove box. Stick with me because I'm going to show you how to tell if this is your problem, how to fix it step by step, and the one mistake that clogs these things in the first place, so you never have to do it twice. Before I get into it, let me introduce myself. My name's Bob Jones, and I spent a good chunk of my life under the hood fixing the kind of stuff shops love to overcharge for. If that's what you're here for, do me one small favor right now. Tap that subscribe button and give this video a like. It costs you nothing. It helps me keep making these. And it means the next driver staring at a foggy windshield finds this fix before they hand over $450. All right, let me show you what's actually going on back there. Behind your dashboard, tucked up against the firewall, sits a small radiator called the heater core. It looks like a shrunk down version of the big radiator up front. Hot coolant from your engine runs through it in a maze of thin metal passages. A little fan pushes cabin air across those passages, and the air comes out warm. That warm air is what you feel on a cold morning. Simple idea, and it works beautifully right up until those thin passages start to choke. Coolant isn't meant to last forever. As it ages, it breaks down, turns a little acidic, picks up rust off the metal it touches, and starts leaving behind a fine, muddy sediment. In the big radiator in the engine block, the passages are wide enough that, this sludge takes a long time to matter. The heater core is the opposite. Its passages are some of the narrowest in the whole cooling system. So that's exactly where the gunk settles first, packing into the tubes like silt in a creek bed. Picture hot coolant trying to push through a core that's half plugged. Part of it still flows, so part of the core stays hot. The plugged part goes cold. The fan blows across all of it at once, and what reaches your face is a blend. Warm from the section that still flows, cool from the section that doesn't. That's your cold on one side, warm on the other heater. The fan's fine. A partial clog is starving half of that little radiator of the hot coolant it needs, and that's what you're feeling on your skin. Telling a clog apart from other problems is easy to do in your own garage. The clear sign is the split you already feel, strong warm air from some vents, weak or cool air from others with the gauge sitting normal. A fully clogged core takes it a step further. where the heater blows cool at every vent, even after the engine's good and hot. Another giveaway is heat that shows up late, where you're driving 15 or 20 minutes before any real warmth arrives. Try this quick hands-on check. With the engine warm, pop the hood and find the two heater hoses where they pass through the firewall, that metal wall between the engine bay and the cabin. Carefully feel both. One should be hot, since that's coolant heading into the core. The other should be nearly as hot coming back out. If one hose is hot and the other's cool or barely warm, coolant isn't making it through. That's your clog confirmed. One warning before you grab any tools: if you smell something sweet and syrupy inside the car, or the windshield fogs with an oily film, or the passenger carpet feels damp, stop. That's the sign of a leaking heater core, and no amount of flushing fixes a leak. A leak means the core has to come out. Flushing is for the clog, and the clog is the far more common and far cheaper problem. This next part is what costs people the most money, so stay with me. When a clogged core gets misread as a failed one, the repair jumps from $20 to a four-figure headache, because reaching the core means tearing the dash apart. Some shops will also point at the blend door actuator, a small motor that aims airflow between hot and cold. That part can fail, sure, but when it does, it usually leaves you stuck at one temperature no matter what the engine's doing, hot all the time or cold all the time, not the warm and cool split a clog gives you. The honest move, and the cheap one, is to rule out the clog first. A $20 flush takes an hour. If it clears the problem, you just saved yourself hundreds. If it doesn't, you've lost almost nothing, and you walk into a shop with real information instead of a blank check. Quick pause. If this is already making more sense than the last quote somebody handed you, tap that like button for me, and drop a comment while you're here. Tell me what you're driving, the year and model, and whether your heat went warm on one side or cold everywhere. I read them, and it helps folks with the same car compare notes. Now, the fix. You need very little for this, and none of it is fancy. A garden hose, a clean drain pan, pliers, or a screwdriver for the hose clamps, some rags, a roll of tape, and one bottle of cooling system flush from any parts store, which is where most of that $20 goes, plus fresh coolant to refill in the exact type your owner's manual calls for. That's the whole list. Start with safety, because this is the step people skip and regret. Let the engine cool all the way down, not warm, cold. The cooling system holds hot coolant under pressure, and cracking it open hot will spray scalding fluid straight up at you. Park on level ground and give it an hour if you just drove. Find those two heater hoses at the firewall again, and wrap a piece of tape around one, so which when it goes back together. Slide your drain pan under the radiator, open the little drain valve at the bottom called the petcock, and let the coolant run out. If it comes out clean and bright, you can save it. If it's brown, rusty, or muddy, that muck is a big part of your trouble, and you'll be refilling with fresh. With the system drained, loosen the clamps on both heater hoses and work them off the core fittings. Old rubber likes to stick after years of heat cycles, so twist it loose gently instead of yanking. That leaves you looking at the two open pipes that feed the core. Now the flush itself, you're going to run water backward through the core, in through the outlet pipe and out the inlet, the opposite of the way coolant normally travels. Going backward is what breaks the packed sediment loose. Hold the garden hose against the outlet fitting, wrap a rag around it to seal the gap, and turn the water on gently. I mean gently. Blast full house pressure into an old core, and you can split it wide open. Let a steady flow run through until the water coming out the far side turns from brown to clear. Then pour in your bottle of flush cleaner, let it sit the few minutes the label tells you, and rinse it through the same way. Keep at it both directions until it runs clean. When the water runs clear, reconnect both hoses to the right fittings, snug the clamps down, and refill the system with fresh coolant. Then you've got to burp the air out. or a trapped pocket will give you a cold spot that mimics the exact problem you just fixed. Set the heater to full hot, leave the radiator cap off, and run the engine until it warms up and the coolant level settles, topping it off as it drops. Cap it and take it for a 20-minute drive. If hot air pours out of every vent, you're done, and you just did a $450 job for the price of lunch. If the heat's better but not perfect, run the flush one more time, because a badly packed core sometimes needs a second pass. If nothing changed at all, walk back through the short list. Make sure the coolant's actually full and you got all the air out. Feel the upper radiator hose to check that the thermostat's opening and letting the engine reach full temperature. Since the thermostat stuck open leaves everything lukewarm, and if the core still won't flow after a real flush, it might finally be time to accept it's done. But you'll have spent $20 to learn that instead of $2,000 to guess at it. One last thing keeps you from ever doing this again. That clog is almost always old coolant left in too long. Coolant has a service life usually printed right there in your owner's manual, and once it's past it, the fluid stops protecting metal and starts eating it. That's when the rust and sediment turn up and drift into the narrowest passages you own, which live in that heater core. Change your coolant on the schedule the maker lists and use the exact type they call for. That matters far more than the price on the jug. Mix the wrong coolant or grab a cheap universal bottle that doesn't match your system, and you can turn the fluid into a gel or a milky sludge that clogs things faster than worn out coolant ever would. One correct flush and refill every few years is cheap insurance on the whole cooling system, not just the heater. And that's the whole fix. A cold on one side heater is usually a plugged little radiator behind your dash, and a garden hose plus a $20 bottle of flush clears it in an hour with no dash removal and no four-figure repair bill. If this saved you a trip to the shop or saved you from believing a scary quote, do the last thing I'll ask: subscribe so the next fix like this shows up before you need it. Give this one a like so it reaches more drivers heading into the cold, and tell me down in the comments how your flush went. I read everyone. Stay warm out there, and I'll catch you in the next one.